educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. We have a special guest we're going to talk about our branding. We're also going to talk about just having fun in entrepreneurship. This individual, he's an entrepreneur and CEO of CaliCube. He specializes in online brand management, and his superhero skill is his ability to influence and reshape Google's focus on an individual or a company. This isn't just optimization, it's a strategic manipulation of digital perceptions. And he's been working on Google since the year was incorporated, and he has been successfully manipulating Google from day one, literally. How many people do you know personally who can say and do that? I don't know anyone. How about yourself? Especially since day one, unless I am the coder for Google, so I thank y'all very much for listening today. And I present to y'all none other than Jason Barnard. Jason, thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure, Maurice. Delighted to be here. Thank you for the intro.
Sure, no problem. So we would like to talk about making entrepreneurship fun, especially for those that are trying to jump into the waters, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And it can be a little frightening. So how would you even categorize being an entrepreneur, even being fun, just from the beginning, just from a ground level?
Right, which is a lovely question. I don't know if I was lucky or smart, but I've always found it fun because I've always done things. I've always had companies that I was passionate about what we were doing. And I've had 3 different companies. The first one was a music publishing company because I was in a rock band. And I created the company in order to release the music albums of the rock band and organize concerts for them. So that was fun because the aim was to release the music of the band and tour with the band and make a living as a musician. That was in 1991. And the second company I created was a children's media entertainment company because my wife and I had created cartoon characters called Boo-Wah and Koala. And I wanted to create a TV show and a website and music albums and books and plush toys for those characters. And so it was, once again, a vehicle for creativity and what I wanted to do. And then with CaliCube, I've created a company because I find it endlessly engaging, interesting, trying to figure out exactly how Google understands the world and how it decides how to represent people like you and me. And philosophically speaking, it's existential. It's, the future of humanity depends on how AI understands and represents people and things. Right. And we can control how it understands and represents us. So Google or ChatGPT or Microsoft Bing or even Apple, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the same. They're all trying to understand who we are, what we do, and which audience we serve. And for me, this is the most interesting intellectual game I could possibly think of.
Well, if for those of you who are listening, the first 2 companies were they were cousins, right? Being music, entertainment, that type of thing. And so was that something that you had an interest in overall, being music? I understand you were in a band, right? And that morphed into the entertainment with the cartoons and things like that. So was that a childhood love of music or entertainment, whatever it was?
Which is lovely. No, in fact, as a child, I was very good at mathematics and economics, and I got a degree in economics. But I realized that having a job in economics or in mathematics would be really boring. And that every morning when I got up, I would be thinking, I don't want to go to work. But if I was playing music, it's all fun. So I started playing music, became a musician, and then realized that we couldn't release the album because the music, the record companies didn't want us. So I thought, create a company. And once again, it was a vehicle for what we were doing. And at the end of the day, what I'm actually doing now is much closer to what I was doing as a child. But because, as you point out, I learned to make entrepreneurship enjoyable and fun, I've approached this geeky, mathematical, economic, business, codey, geeky stuff fun for myself. So Calicube in my life has come at the perfect time. I learned to make entrepreneurship fun, and this third company I've created is fun, even though the topic doesn't necessarily look like it would be.
So I know one of the things, even though it sounds like it might be two different things, but I think music does have a little math to it, doesn't it?
Good point. Good point.
So you didn't stray away too far.
No, exactly. I actually interviewed a couple of people in SEO. I'm not an SEO. I'm a personal brand. I manage personal brands for our clients.
Right.
And I come from a background of understanding SEO. So I talk to SEOs and they talk to me about their geeky stuff, and I try and integrate it into what we're doing. And they were saying a lot of musicians end up being SEOs because there is that thing in music of a mixture of creativity and structure and mathematical formula that suits the musician's brain. So if you're an ex-musician and you're looking for a job, SEO is a good place to go.
So now let's bring in a little more current with Calicube, because we went from your childhood, again, math. Now you're saying, hey, I graduated to another part of my creativity, still in math. Now I want to work on my on my brand, and now I'm trying to challenge Google on what my brand needs to look like. So now do I need to still understand the mathematics of Google to some degree in order for me to control my brand?
Well, that's exactly it. The Google algorithms are hugely complicated. I mean, beyond any understanding that we have, and even the engineers at Google don't really understand how they function in detail because it's machine learning, it's artificial intelligence. So they tell the machine, here's some data, here's what we want to achieve. Here are some ideas about how you might go about achieving it. Here are some guardrails to stop you going completely nuts. Off you go, do it, and show me what you can do. And then the machine gets on with learning it. And from that perspective, it's a black box where you don't know what's going inside its little brain. But you do know, we know at Calicube, what we put in and what's likely to come out. So what we have is a prediction of, if we put this in, this is going to come out the other side. But actually how it functions, to all intents and purposes, doesn't matter as long as our prediction is correct. And our predictions are 95% correct, which is better than anybody else I can think of in the world.
So as we're talking about our brand, which is really, people's perception of us, so how are we able to control that if, let's say, I had something that happened 5-6 years ago, and people are kind of used to that and seeing that. How can we can't erase it. So how do we control that?
It's a really good point. You kind of raise it. A lot of people kind of just think it's in the past, therefore it's gone, but it's not. It's still there. History is there. Google understands history. I actually got an interesting piece of data today, which is Google has a knowledge graph, which is its understanding of the world. And it understands millions and millions and millions of people, who they are, what they do, which audience they serve, when they were born, who they work for, how old they are, obviously, who their partner is, who they've worked with, which university they went to, when they died. Over 50% of the people it understands are now no longer living. That's how heavy history is. So if we consider that, we're saying, okay, you need to take care of your past, you're right. How do we change its perceptions? And that's why I started working in this particular field, is when I stopped the cartoon company, which I didn't stop it. The cartoon company is still going. All of my companies are still going. They all belong to other people except Calicube, and they're all still profitable. I have 66 years of profitable entrepreneurship under my belt with my companies. But that's not the point. The point was, my ex-business partner took over the company for the cartoons, And I realized that I needed to leave the blue dog, the boudoir blue dog. I played the character. I needed to leave him behind. But I couldn't delete him. I couldn't deny that I was ever Boudoir the blue dog. What I could do is change Google's focus. So in 2012, 2013, I sat down and I thought, how do I change Google's perception of me so that it represents me to the subset of its users who are my audience in the way that I want, which is digital marketer, entrepreneur. And that kicked off this whole career. That kicked off CaliCube, that kicked off the whole lot, because I found that I could do it and that nobody else was doing it. Nobody else had actually sat down and thought about this and found a solution to the problem. So I've found a solution to a fundamental problem that nobody else has been looking at. And as far as I know, nobody else is looking at today to the extent that we do.
So I think, I know you had mentioned that you have over 66 years, right? I don't want to gloss over that. And I'm saying that because of all the other businesses that you have created, you started, you founded, you participated with, or whatever it is. You know, if someone is they're trying to change what the brand is or how people view them or how they talk about them, even just from Google, you know, talking about them or bringing up whatever information. But for someone like yourself who is a part of multiple things, how much harder is it for someone like yourself? You know, how much you have to study? How much do you have to work at it? Is it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yeah.
You know, or like you know, because of, you know, I think of someone like myself who has a few. I have 2 or 3, you know, and I've been in business for 12 years. But you're talking about 66 years total. Like, that's a lot. So how do you really, you know, concentrate on that for everything that you've accomplished?
Yeah, it's a lovely question. I mean, we're all multifaceted, so everybody has this problem. Everybody has multiple facets to who they are, but different work, career path, different things you do in life, things that you've published, things that you talk about. I'm a musician, I'm a cartoon maker, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm the CEO. I've got all these different hats.
Right.
And Google doesn't understand which hat it should be presenting primarily. And it's up to me to explain to it which one I want it to show. So if I tell it and educate it, it will do what I want because it has no reason to do anything else. And the work is boring. And it is quite a lot of work, but the big chunk of work takes about 3 months.
Okay.
When we're serving our clients, 3 months, we call it understandability. Does the machine understand who you are, what you do, which audience you serve? And the 3 months is intensive work to optimize your digital footprint so that it's clear and consistent and creates the right focus for the algorithms. And that means taking everything you've got online. We've got a machine that goes around and finds every single thing about you online. We then prioritize it and say, we need to update that. We update it all, or we have you update it, either way. It's a big chunk of work and it's really boring, but it's incredibly effective because consistency is key. If the machine sees consistent information across the web, it will understand. Then what we do is we help you to create a website about you, where you talk about you. And all that website needs to do, it can be 2 pages, doesn't need to be big, is say who I am, what I do, who I serve, why I'm credible. Then we give that to Google. And from that website, we point to all of the different corroborative sources that confirm what we're saying on our own website. Google then goes backwards and forwards, an infinite loop of self-corroboration, and sees that what you're saying is confirmed by the rest of the world. It then believes what you're saying and trusts you for the future to give it the truth about yourself. So you then gain control. Simple as that. It's a lot of work, but it's simple in and of itself.
Jason, I'm not important enough to have my own website.
You are. Everybody can have a website.
You know, some of us believe that, though.
No, it's a great point. And the thing is, it isn't a website to show off and to be present and to get people to come and look at you. And it's not me being terribly self-satisfied and happy with myself and saying, look at me, aren't I wonderful? It's saying, I need a place on the web that the machines can rely on for information about me from me, so that I can help them to understand, so that they can then represent me the way that I would like. And if people come and visit the website, that's great, because if a potential client or a potential partner for my business wants to know more about me, they come to my website, they find out about me, and then they can see that I write for Forbes, that I wrote for Search Engine Land, that I'm on IMDb. They can see all this information, which helps them to better understand me. So although I'm talking a lot about machines, at the end of the day, people too can benefit from that. And it's not that you're being self-satisfied, and it's never that you're not important enough. If anybody wants to look at the website, you're important enough. It might be your mother. That's fine. But for the machines, it's essential. Without that, it will never work long term. You don't have control. So the perspective of saying, okay, we're going to create this website so that I can control how the machines perceive, understand, and represent me. And in addition, to help my audience who really wants to understand who I am before they do business with me, get to know me a little bit on my terms. I can't see anything negative or bad about that. I can only see positives. So yeah, everybody is worthy of a website.
Now, up until now, I have just been using LinkedIn as my primary, place to send everybody. And it's been pretty successful for me. So why shouldn't I continue to use something like LinkedIn, if I'm pointing everyone there?
I'm going to be really rude. Do you own LinkedIn?
I do not.
But you would own your own website. Control. If LinkedIn closes your account, you've lost it. If LinkedIn changes its policy and changes the way it presents information, you've lost control of how your information is presented. If LinkedIn makes a huge code bug and starts putting somebody else's information on your page, the machines will suddenly not understand anymore. You've lost it again. Control of the primary source of information about you is essential. If you don't own the primary source of information, you don't have control.
And I think that is a key point, because a lot of times we rely on these other platforms to host our information, to gather the information, whatever it is. We don't always try to control the narrative, or we don't like celebrities, quote unquote, when they're trying to control the media or whatever it is.
Sure.
But there's a reason for that. There's a purpose for that. And I think you're really touching on it, that, hey, these machines, this algorithm, right? If we're trying to build and grow, we need to make sure that we control the narrative to a degree.
100%. Absolutely. And I get what you mean about celebrities. We kind of think, oh, they're controlling what's coming out about them. That's not good. Academics, it's a similar problem. Actors, it's a similar problem. That perception of their audience is not the perception of your business audience. So if you're trying to do business with somebody, that actually doesn't matter. That nobody's going to come in thinking, oh, they're trying to control their brand narrative, because you're not a superstar. So the fact that you feel you're not worthy of a website is actually a positive signal of saying, that means I can actually control this explicitly, and I don't need to be ashamed of that because nobody cares. Whereas if you were famous, people would start to care. In which case, the problem becomes slightly different from our perspective.
Right.
With that. Not being seen to look after and to manage your brand narrative online is, something we can do as well. But I prefer the idea of saying, okay, let's be upfront about it. We're managing this, and we're managing it for a reason. We're managing it because we want to do business.
Right.
And that brings me to the next point, which is we want to manage the representation of our personal brand to our audience when they're visiting our website or our LinkedIn or our Twitter, because they're people we want to do business with. We want the machines to understand who we are, what we do, which audience we serve, because we want them to represent us to the subset of their users who are our audience. So the machine is actually just an interface between people and people. And I'm just asking the machine to connect me to the right people and recommend me to the right people when they're searching or researching through ChatGPT, for example.
Right, right.
So if you don't look at the machine as the end goal, you look at the people who are using the machine as the end goal. Once again, we're just saying, I want to be represented accurately to my audience. Nothing wrong with that. Everything good about it if you're trying to do business.
Wow, we can go down a rabbit hole with this.
You can. I've gone down a 12-year now rabbit hole of, I thought I would do it for a few months. Honestly, I thought I'll just change Google's perception of me from the blue dog in the cartoon to entrepreneur, businessman, digital marketer. 12 years later, the rabbit hole's just getting deeper and deeper, and I don't see the bottom.
Jason, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. So before I let you go, I mean, the people need tips. They need ideas or whatever it is. And you have a newsletter that you offer for people to, glean from. So can you please tell everybody about the newsletter?
Yeah, the idea of the newsletter is basically, how do you use these machines to reach a bigger audience? So how do you manage your brand narrative and the way the machines understand and represent you so that you can reach the audience who want to do business with you? And the newsletter is just full of tips and tricks about how to do it, both for your company and for yourself. Now, as a company, we work on the personal brand of CEOs and founders of corporations who have been in existence for a few years. That's where we make our money. But the system, the Kalicube process that we use, can work for the company and any person. At which point, we're giving all this information away for free because it's important. And that's where I come from. I want to educate and help people. I did the cartoons because I wanted to educate children, entertain them, and help them learn about a complicated world that's out there. And that's where Kalicube's coming from today.
Nice.
So kalicube.com, kalicube.com/newsletter. We'll get you to the newsletter where you'll receive regular emails about how to manage your personal brand, but also how to manage your corporate brand. And if you want the quick solution, kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides, GUIDES, you can download 60-page PDF guides to how to control your personal brand, how to control your corporate brand, how to build your personal brand, how to build your corporate brand, how to face up to this world of AI that's scary, but very, very, very much manageable and an opportunity, a huge opportunity for people who seize it. And all of that's free because we know that it's important, and we know that this is a universally applicable solution to a huge problem.
Yeah, it is. So, Jason, I thank you very much for coming on and just, I guess kind of humanizing Google a little bit.
Yeah.
Just let them know that we can, manipulate it a little bit.
Yeah, humanizing it, if you can see here, that's Googlebot. So it's Google's robot as a child learning. So the conclusion of this is Google is a child. You can educate that child to understand who you are, what you do, which audience you serve, and teach it to represent you the way you want. And the practical thing you need to do, build yourself a very simple 1-page, 2-page website, state clearly who you are, what you do, which audience you serve, why you're credible, link out to all of the corroborative sources that say the same thing about you, and make sure they do say the same thing about you, so you correct them all. And at that point, the child will learn. It will learn by repetition, and it will learn to trust you. You've got control, and moving forward, you can seize the opportunity that AI represents for us all. Because if you're in ahead of the rest of the field, your competitors, you're going to win that game because you control. Wow.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on.
I like the way you keep saying, wow, it's delightful.
Because it is, because it brings it down to a place where, for those of us who are intimidated by this, because yes, even though it sounds like a lot of work, and we're also intimidated by it, but the way the way I take it, this is just Maurice taking it. All right, let me take my time, understand first what I need the image or the message to be about me first.
Yeah.
Take my time on that. And then now, because again, for who I am, all right, do I need to make sure the message is on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest? Yeah. But is that just a copy and paste across the board? Like, so I'm just thinking for myself how simple it can be for those listeners that are out there. It doesn't have to be all long and drawn out. It just takes time to go into each account and all that type of stuff.
And you're 100% right. You need to clearly define what it is you want to communicate before you start changing things. And if you do that, then it becomes relatively easy. Mm-hmm. You also need to define the key points about you. Jason Barnard is an entrepreneur. It's a sentence you will see on every single platform. Mm-hmm. But if you go to LinkedIn, you won't see the blue dog and the yellow koala. If you go to Twitter, you will.
Right.
So it's also a question of consistent information that builds the foundational understanding and the focus point. And the rest can be your different facets, depending on the audience on a particular platform. Mm-hmm. So it is flexible, but the machine will see that same information. Jason Barnard is an entrepreneur, an author, and a keynote speaker, and the CEO of CaliCube, absolutely everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it knows that's the focus. Simple as that.
And what's funny is that was one sentence, maybe two. It's not very deep.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and the repeatable or the stuff you need to repeat is that very simple part, mm-hmm. and then build around it. I think that the people are afraid of repeating themselves, mm-hmm. but then if you are primarily, in my case, an entrepreneur and an author and the CEO of CaliCube, that's what I want people to understand about me today.
Right.
And if they want to dig deeper, they can dig deeper and they can find the musician, they can find the blue dog, they can find all sorts of things about me. But primarily, especially in business, and if we come back to that topic, I want to do business. I want people to know that I can help them with their personal brand. Mm-hmm. So I need to communicate that exactly what it is. In the first instance, that I'm trustable, which is the entrepreneur part.
Right.
Secondly, I can help you. So when they come to my website, first thing it says is, I help business leaders go from being one of many to the one mm-hmm. amongst many, build their personal brand and find more clients, more business, build their personal brand as a business attribute for their corporation.
Nice. Well, Jason, thank you very much for coming on the show. But before I let you go, I got to ask you a world famous question I ask everybody. My would you rather question.
Would you rather, right.
Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Oh, I think I'd rather choose a fork in the road.
Okay.
Because I have some level of visibility over what's coming over the next hill. So in terms of my life decisions, I prefer the fork in the road.
Okay.
And I like the idea of paths, which is, I went down the path of creating CaliCube rather than the path of doing a different company for SEO or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if I was in my personal life, which I think is different to my business life, I like the idea of the doors because I like a surprise, but not in business.
You're the first one that broke it down like that. No one else has broken down personal versus business. Two other sides of the brain.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, it's something I've learned is my personal life and my business life has got nothing to do with each other. I mean, obviously, I'm the same person.
Right.
But fork in the road for the business, doors for the personal life. Because for the doors, I can imagine myself standing in front of them with my family having a game.
Right.
Whereas the fork in the road, I want to know what's going to be happening because I don't want to mess it up because other people in my company depend on the company for their income
right.
and their personal life, and I don't have the right to just say, "Oh, I'll have fun opening a door and seeing what happens." Mm-hmm. I have to be able to see or have some visibility in the road ahead.
Right.
I like that. I didn't know what that question was going to be, and it was delightful.
No, but I thank you very much for playing along with it. I appreciate it, and that's a great point. I like that. I like that answer. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Maurice, with the French accent.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to continue to practice on that. But, thank y'all for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. Of course, all the information that was mentioned today, CaliCube, the newsletter, of course, that will be in the show notes. I thank you for listening, and I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?
Hmm.